Hey, welcome to the coaches meeting. That's the coach. I'm Grant Cohn. Title of the show is Why the Niners Will Start Fast this year. So let's start fast and get right to it.
Let's get to it.
The pattern is that they don't start fast. Last year, 3-4. Year before that, 3-5. They did start 8-0 4 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. I think it's important to examine the context of the last two seasons before we assume that the Niners are just going to start slow again. So why don't you take it from there?
Okay. Well, what's up, Grant? First of all, get it out the way.
What's up, Coach? How you doing?
We were talking about this, and I was looking at how important it is to have a fast start. Let's just put that out first. So having a fast start is what we want, and we haven't had them. And I feel like when we are so far from the beginning of a season, when you're looking back at the end of a season, which we have long seasons going to the NFC Championship game, it's kind of hard to look at the dead numbers, which is just we lost to the Bears in the Broncos early on, right? We come out and we
found a way,
right? And we found a way to lose, and we started slow in 2020, and we started slow in 2021, right? And you look back and you want to correlate what we've done with, well, we just had slow starts and we need to get better. But let's go into it. In 2020. We had a remarkably a historical injury plagued year, right? Injuries like we had not seen. We lost Raheem Mostert in the very beginning of the year. We lost Elijah Mitchell. We had to have Elijah Mitchell come in, and we started slow.
And then he got hurt.
Yeah,
he got hurt,
right?
We too. Yeah.
21, we come in, and George starts very slow, and we had
they missed the first two games.
Yes, and we had other issues going into the beginning of the season, which give
Mitchell got hurt in the sixth carry.
Mitchell got hurt, and he was already out. And
Debo wasn't in shape.
And then we had to find a way, and then we had to come in and bring in Christian. So let's also look at something that we haven't, that because we do so well, we don't necessarily look at all of the things that we were worried about. We had a completely revamped offensive coaching staff.
This is huge. I think people don't talk about position coaches very much, but they're like the lifeblood of your team. And we need to talk about this. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, not a problem. Not a problem. This is something we have lost, not just coaches, but we lost coaches that became head coaches on our team. Back to back, and they purged us.
3.
They purged us. We lost a lot of guys, especially on the offensive side. And I feel like starting just to look back when you're in February and you're looking at September, it's hard to look at, well, we did start with a completely new offensive staff. We started with new rookies and new players on the offensive side of the ball. And yes, we did start slow as it pertains to us winning and losing games, but I don't feel like it's a calling card. I don't feel like it's something that needs that. It's almost kind of like
real quick. I mean, let's go back to the last 2 years real specifically. In 2021, they lose Saleh. He brings Mike LaFleur with him, who has now been fired, but he brings Mike LaFleur with him. He was the offensive coordinator. The Niners promote Bobby Slowik. So all of a sudden they have a new pass game coordinator, could contribute to part of the slow offensive start. And then last year they lost McDaniel. And he took Welker, and go ahead.
And also at the time, we're just going back to that time, nobody knew what Mike McDaniels was. Remember when Mike McDaniels came out in those pressers, and he had a little bit of a hard time being taken seriously. Yes. And the Niners knew what they had. They knew.
They absolutely did. He left. He was obviously an instant success, and he took Wes Welker with him, John Embry with him. I think there were more. So last year we all knew. I think we forgot about it, but they had an all-new offensive staff to the point that Kyle was essentially teaching his coaches all offseason.
Yeah.
And I think, how do you expect that setup to hit the ground running?
Right. There was Leonard Hankerson came in as a new receivers coach.
Brian Fleury is the tight end coach.
Yeah, who had never coached that position.
Or played it, right? And then we had Anthony Lynn coming in as kind of like the OG, the consigliere. Oh, yeah, Bobby Turner stepped aside last year for a little bit. People forget that one, too. We're going to get into Bobby Turner. But Bobby Turner left. I think he had a procedure. He's in his 70s. At a certain point, he's going to retire. And they started 1-2, and all of a sudden he was back in the fold. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So that was another one.
Yeah. Bobby Turner is I feel like Bobby Turner is a capstone to what the 49ers are doing from a coaching staff. He's a subject matter expert, if you will.
We'll get into him.
We'll definitely get into that. But as far as the slow starts are concerned, I'm encouraged about how we're going to start this year. And again, we're not the only team with turnover, right? So there's teams that have new coaches and new coaching staffs and new players that they have to overcome as well. But for us to talk about slow starts, I feel like that's us trying to look at the perfect season. What would have capped us off in the best way?
Also, I feel like the slow starts the last couple of years were a lot on offense. And what we're seeing this year is, or the last couple of years, they had a lot of turnover on that offensive coaching staff. Now, the turnover's on the defensive side, both on personnel and in coaching. And we take the defense for granted, but it's been it's been elite for like 4 years in a row. And doesn't mean this defense, it won't be elite this year. But if anything's going to start slow, I mean, the offense is basically returned all of its starters minus Mike McGlinchey and Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy might start week 1. We don't even know.
Yeah.
Right? So they're all pretty much the same. And on defense, they lost like 5 or 6 guys, plus their secondary coach, who was the pass game coordinator, and D'Amico. Like the brain trust of the defense is gone. And Jimmy Ward's gone. Mosley's gone. A bunch of guys are gone. Aziz, Amenihue, Ebukam. And now you got a new guy with new ideas, a new secondary. It might not work right away. It might not work great.
Well,
first month.
I see the method to Kyle's madness in that he is an offensive guy who came in with his own defensive philosophy. And that matters. That matters because that puts him in a position where he knows exactly the type of man that he wants in there. He's not really being dictated to. There's a lot of, believe it or not, there's a lot of offensive coaches who really don't touch the defensive side of the ball of their team, right? They're more or less consulted. They make sure that they get the requisite pieces and they allocate the funds to make sure that the defense works. But as far as actually knowing how the defense works with the offense, they're clueless. That comes to the biggest word or the biggest phrase that comes to this football team is that it's complementary football. The way our defense plays helps our offense and vice versa.
Also, every offensive coach has to be a defensive quality control first. Including Kyle. It's part of that's part of the Kyle coaching training program, which he's very good at.
A part of the coaching Shanahan tree is Tom Landry.
Yeah. And
that is the defensive way. Tom Landry is the godfather of the 43 defense. And he coached under Jim Lee Howe for years. And under his time, Tom Landry had a very good offensive mind under him, which was Dan Reeves. And Dan Reeves served as the QB coach, the offensive coordinator, and the receivers coach under Tom Landry, who then in turn took on Mike Shanahan. So they offensively, they get at it from an offensive perspective by title, but their roots are defensive. They know defense.
Right. And that's why they're so married to the run game.
Yes. Because the run game almost is like a cousin to defense offensively.
Oh yeah. It's like, you're bleeding the clock. And I asked Steve Wilkes, like, why do so many defensive coaches like working with Kyle? A lot of times defensive coaches, I didn't say it, but Chip Kelly couldn't get a guy to work with him. And he was like, well, he's so committed to the run game. And that's like a defensive coach's dream. Also, he has really good players on defense. I don't think he said that, but Nick Bosa helps. Fred Warner helps.
Yeah, and they if you think about it, even the way the approach to the run game is from a defensive mindset. They want to control the clock. They want to bleed and take. Not only do they want to control the clock, but they want time of possession. They want to constrict and strangle their opponent. So absolutely.
So look, the way I look at it is, even if Sam Darnold starts, Trey Lance starts, you have so much continuity coming back. You got Bobby Turner's here. You got everything coming back on offense minus Mike McGlinchey, who, like, honestly, they'll survive.
They'll serve.
And probably any quarterback could hand off and they could probably win. Question is, will the defense be giving up 25, 30 points in any of these games in September? Kenny Pickett, the Rams, maybe the Giants and the Cardinals. Like, I'd be surprised. They have a lot of personnel. They kind of coach themselves on defense to a large degree. They know what they're doing.
Well, our again, to stick back to complimentary football, Grant, that our style of football travels, right?
Yeah.
We take the air out of stadiums with running the ball and playing good defense. It optically, it feels much more dynamic than it looks, right? It's not as exciting, but we're a team that home teams don't want to see coming, right? Because we're going to play 60 minutes, right, from start to finish, and we don't care about winning by 30. We'll win 12-10, right? And that's the team that you don't want to see, who's going to methodically play a game from start to finish. So I know that, let's just be honest, we got screwed by the schedule guides this year. We're going uphill, but for what we do, we play responsibility football, and I'm excited about what we do. Well, especially the beginning of the season, because we have some continuity on offense, and I really feel like the way we left this season, the guys, they have to start fast. They talked way too much this offseason. They have to start fast.
Yeah, and I think last year, starting 1 and 2, drafting Ty Davis Price, this team goes as its run game goes, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Bobby Turner rushed back week 4 to save the season. So let's talk about Bobby Turner.
Right.
Kyle Shanahan has Mike Shanahan has a very, very interesting coaching tree, and it's filled with guys in their 30s, maybe 40s, who are considered geniuses, but haven't won anything except for Sean McVay.
Right.
And it's every year it's like, who's the next 32-year-old genius that coached for Kyle Shanahan? Meanwhile, there's this 74-year-old who's kind of chilling in the background, never been a coordinator, but he's a constant. He's been the running back coach forever for Mike and for Kyle. He follows them wherever they go, and doesn't coach for anyone else. And people just sort of take it for granted. Yeah, he's good. He's important. I don't think people fully appreciate just how important this man is and how big of a deal it was when he wasn't there for an offseason in 3 games last year, how important it was when he came back, and how he's not going to be here for much longer. Dude's 74. Let's talk about Bobby Turner.
Bobby Turner is regarded as, if not the best, one of the best running back coaches in football, period. He coached for over 23 years before he got his first NFL job posting in 1995 with the Denver Broncos under Mike Shanahan. Before he got to the NFL, he was a running backs coach and an offensive coordinator for Purdue from 1991 to 1994. Now, in that time, he was under Coach Jim Coletto, where he had spent 2 years previously at Ohio State, where he coached who is that? The running back out of Ohio State.
Robert
Smith.
Great running back for the Vikings and a very good college football analyst.
Yes, and also in that running back room in Ohio State, he had 5 running backs that all made it to the NFL. Out of that running back room. In Purdue, Mike Allstott was his project. Turned Mike Allstott into plus 130-yard a game back, and that offense in 2 years that he was there averaged over 235 yards rushing.
And what blocking scheme were they using at Purdue?
I believe they were using the inside and outside zone.
Wow, back in 1992, 3, 4, that's amazing. Yeah. What was Kyle doing back then? Oh, he was in middle school.
Yeah.
No offense.
Yeah.
What was I doing back then? I was in preschool. Okay.
Yeah, I was in preschool. So, and if you want to, if you just want a little bit of from the horse's mouth data, get on YouTube and go to Bobby Turner Describes His Perfect 49ers Running Back, where you can hear him talk about.
I just watched it.
Yeah, where you can hear him talk about him being in the inside and outside zone scheme since college. So this is an iron cast mold, if you will. If you're in the industries, you know that an iron cast mold is one of one. It's what you keep pouring into to keep your product coming in and coming out. It's the go ahead.
Oh, go keep. No, I keep going. I was agreeing with you. Keep
Yeah.
going.
It's
Yeah.
the kernel of your organization. I believe
Yeah.
that Bobby Turner is not only vital to the 49ers coaching staff, but if you really want to be quite frank about it, he's the only person on that staff that's a founding father of that
Yeah.
offense. He
That's
was
true.
actually there with Alex Gibbs and Mike
Yeah.
Shanahan and Terrell Davis when they got him out of the draft and turned him into
Mm-hmm.
a household name. He was the
Hall of
guy.
Famer.
Yes, Hall of Famer. He was the
Yeah.
guy that did that. Bobby
So
Turner.
real quick, what I want to say is like people give him credit as being a great running back coach, and we're gonna talk about that in a second. But I think what people give Kyle credit for and his dad is their scheme. It's like they're so far away beyond everyone in their X's and O's. Well, Bobby's a big part of that.
Mhm.
Bobby was doing this scheme in college at Purdue. Mike
Yeah,
Shanahan saw it, was like, we need this in Denver. I
yeah,
mean, they weren't doing this outside zone stuff on the Niners when Mike Shanahan was here as much because, I mean, I don't think the Niners would allow it. I mean, they had Bob McKittrick at the time. He was doing what he wanted to do. He
yeah.
went to Denver, brought in Alex Gibbs, brought in Bobby Turner, and they start. So he's a big part of this scheme. And I just want to point out with Kyle Shanahan, every single year he's been a coordinator except for one. He had Bobby Turner with him. The one year he didn't was his 1 year in Cleveland.
And
That
he was
1 year,
dismissed.
his offense averaged 3.6 yards per carry, which was 28th in the league. He's really freaking important, and he doesn't get any credit for being a genius or
Yeah,
being a guru, but
and
I think he probably is.
the
He's the
proof
one.
is in the pudding. I mean,
Yeah.
Mike Anderson, Tatum Bell, Orlandis Gary, Clinton Portis, Alfred Morris.
How many guys has he gotten paid in terms of coaches? How many guys has he made look smart?
Guys, his just
McDaniel,
look at it this
LaFleur,
way. Go back
Shanahan.
Go back and watch that video with Bobby Turner describes his perfect 49ers running back. And what he's gonna make a quote that's completely different from what every talking head has ever said about this offense. And that is what? You can just put anybody in this offense.
He's like, nope.
It's the scheme. It's the
Nope.
scheme. And what
running
that
back
does in an effect is it takes the artistry out of the endeavor. It makes
Right.
it look like it's tactile, almost as if the people don't matter. And in that video, Bobby Turner says out of his own mouth, it's a marriage.
Yep.
A lot of people
gotta
think
be right
that you
fit.
could put anybody into this scheme, but
Can't.
it's really hand in glove.
Yeah.
And you have to find the right people. It's about scouting the right people, and it's our responsibility to do that. Also, he also said that his biggest coaching skill was my biggest ability is learning how to get out of the way and letting the players take over once we teach them. So I just there's just some things that are coming out of the foundation.
What he means by that, though, it seems like with outside zone, it was zone runners. Like we've seen it from Arian Foster to Alfred Morris to Raheem Mostert. Like it doesn't really matter how fast you are. What matters is how your vision and how quickly you make decisions. Are they because like there's not a set track. Right. I mean, there's like a running track, but at a certain point, like you could go outside, you could cut inside, you could cut it back. Like you have to make that decision. You can't hesitate, and you got to make one cut and go. Some guys are like Tevin Coleman on the Niners was really indecisive. Raheem Mostert was extremely decisive, and it didn't even look like he was juking anyone. But you have to have that vision, and you have to have that. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know if Ty Davis Price has it. Jordan Mason has it.
Well, I mean, from a coaching term, they would call that slow to and fast through. So you would go slow to and fast.
He mentions patience, right? He mentions patience, doesn't he?
Yes. And also from a running back perspective, especially when you're coaching, you want to build a foundation, like an ethos. And I gained some insight from Coach Turner from him talking about runners being in service of the other 10, not the other way around. These guys are not blocking for you. You're setting them up. Right. You're making them right. And I feel like from that perspective, you have to be a very good teacher and putting responsibility on a ball carrier when you're asking him to go through an offense. That doesn't sound like that doesn't sound like a pony that you just put blinders on and you let him carry the ball. That doesn't sound like somebody that you can just plug into a system.
No, and it's not like, hey, go freelance. Hey, go do whatever you want to do. It's like, follow the track that we set for you. Follow your visual keys exactly. And really, I mean, it's not like there's like a right answer to these runs. Like they stop it the next day and they click it and you're like, okay, the hole was here. You should have went here.
Yeah.
And some guys are good at that. Some guys aren't.
I think that one of the reasons why our running backs probably get or all of the running backs in this scheme probably get the moniker of being, accessible or versatile is because I don't think that we're recognizing the fact that maybe the criteria for getting these running backs is bespoke. Maybe it's curated. Maybe it's so intricate of what Bobby has done throughout the years of knowing what these guys look for that they supersede the draft, that there is no round. We can get these guys because we know exactly how to teach them once we get them inside of our building. And I think that it's time for fans to start realizing that he's not just a position coach. He's a chartered member.
Yeah, and he's not going to be here forever. He just turned 74 like a couple weeks ago. At a certain point, the Niners need to leave him alone and say thank you, everything. Like the Shanahans having called on him. He's their right-hand man. He's the ace up their sleeve, and I get it. He's great. But at a certain point, Kyle's going to have to do it without him. He will. And I'm curious. I mean, it's great that you got Anthony Lynn sort of learning from Bobby Turner, but I don't know that you can replicate Bobby Turner. He seems like he's a truly special one-of-one type.
This is a coach that still gives out pencil and paper tests before games on assignments for running backs. So this is an educator.
Yeah, he's not messing around.
Yeah.
Flave says, people act like anyone can be put into the quarterback spot in this offense too. Nah, there's a particular skill set you need to have to be good, just like running back. I agree. That's why the Shanahans wanted Trey Lance. I totally agree. That's why they wanted Trey Lance and traded up for Trey Lance.
And that's why Mike went out and got Jay Cutler.
Right, you got to be able to do play action. You got to be able to be under center. That's very much. You got to be able to throw rolling left and rolling right. Those bootlegs are very important. That's why Jimmy's gone. Couldn't do any of that stuff. All right. Yeah. Another position coach on the team who's very interesting to me. Brian Greasy.
Okay.
He was an announcer. And his connection to ESPN is interesting, but I'm going to put that aside for a second.
Okay.
He's also a player, and Mike Shanahan drafted him. So he knows the system, and he's been groomed not only as a quarterback, but as a leader by Kyle Shanahan's dad. Mike Shanahan, the Shanahans have had a tough time developing quarterbacks, but Mike's most successful times, he had Gary Kubiak as his quarterback coach and then his offensive coordinator. Gary Kubiak was a player. It was Elway's backup. And so was Greasy. Makes me feel like maybe Kyle hopes is grooming Greasy to be his Kubiak because, he does have the greatest running back coach like ever. But he's been really searching for a quarterback coach who can get some positive results. And so far, it seems like Greasy had him last year with 2 quarterbacks.
Right. I think that Coach Kubiak, if you're going to look at Coach Gibbs and Coach Turner as kind of the run outfit of the offense, then one would say that the lineage of the Shanahan offense would be the passing offense would be through Coach Kubiak. And Coach Kubiak was in the room when Coach Shanahan went after Brian Greasy to bring him in. So he knows the roots of the offense. I mean, let's be honest, this is a family affair, right?
It really is.
This is all home cooking. They go with what they know, right?
Yeah.
I know a guy, right? Yeah. So
he's one of us.
He's one of us.
He's one of us.
Oh, Brian, I drafted him from back in, you know what I'm saying?
He's one of us.
Yeah. So with that,
is he a friend of mine or is he a friend of ours?
I don't know.
He's a friend of ours.
He isn't made yet. So,
exactly. Yeah.
So our thing is he's trying to get made, and so is his sons. That's why his sons came over. I think we have both of his sons on the staff right now. Clint and Clay Kubiak.
Clint and Clay. Yeah,
are both here, and they are basically here for the past iteration of this offense to make sure what we do through the air gets taught, the ethos of the offense, how you're supposed to go through the progressions, also how Kyle has put wrinkles in. There's this is the West Coast offense through the air, and through philosophy. It is West Coast. However, Kyle's
Keep going.
No, you're good. However, Kyle's way of going about Kyle's route tree rather has been talked about as being multi-directional, optional, being able to run after the catch, softening off routes, not necessarily having things rounded off. So I think that Brian Griese, my thing is that I just hope that he's there to coach everybody that's in the room.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second, because to me, it's real clear, like, he had a hand in them drafting Brock Purdy. He didn't discover Brock, but when they showed him to him, and he was like, yep, I like him very much. And so he's invested in Brock. Also, I have to admit, I have to imagine that he had a hand in them signing Sam Darnold. I mean, I'm sure Steve Wilkes had a big hand in it, and Kyle and Christian McCaffrey and a lot of people, but I bet they asked the quarterback coach, and he looked at it and said, absolutely, I see what you're seeing. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And so that's two guys that he's like, yeah, I want you in my room. We don't know how he feels about Trey. We just don't know. He inherited Trey. And we can't assume that anything. And so when you hear stuff from people at ESPN saying, hey, man, I hear it. A guy I know that I trust about quarterbacks saying Darnold could be the surprise of the league this year. It's like, oh, man, like, dude, is that how Griese feels? And like, what does he feel about Trey? Like, is he the reason that everyone thinks the Niners are down on Trey because he won't say anything nice? I mean, those are questions I have. The fact that he worked at ESPN is wild to me. I mean, the Niners have him and Lynch, who have all these media connections. So anytime anyone at any of the, like, Fox or ESPN says something, I'm like,
yeah, they got the media game full circle.
Yeah.
They got the media game full circle. They kill ants with sledgehammers. They're a little heavy-handed. They're a little heavy-handed when they want to put out a message, So
yeah.
I
don't know that Brian Griese talks at all. It's just when his former partner in the booth starts saying stuff so specifically, I'm like,
yeah, and he wasn't even. Yeah, it wasn't, like I said, it was clumsy. It's not even. It's like somebody who I really, really trust.
Yeah, knows a lot about quarterbacks and pretty close. Yeah,
my daughter, that guy. Like, it's just like, yo, who are you talking about, Lewis?
All right.
So, that's why I brought that up. I just want Trey to make it to camp. Just be healthy and be ready. I think that Brian, from a coach's
Can I just say something real quick? Last year when we interviewed him, like the one day we had, or 1 or 2 days, I asked him like specific questions about Trey Lance. This is on camera.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
Dude, he was so reluctant to say anything. All he would praise for Trey Lance is that he's a nice guy. Good guy. But honestly, I don't really know him. I'm just getting to know him. I don't really know. That's all he kept saying. I mean, he's a really good guy. I can say that he's a good guy. He wants to be good. He's working hard. That's all he would say. I mean, Kyle will go farther than that. Further.
Well, and that's something that I'll do. Like, those who can't do, coach.
Yeah.
And there's something about the killing of your ego that you have to have when you're coaching a kid that you know was better than you.
Yeah.
That's a real
Brian
thing.
Griese wasn't the third pick in the draft.
That's a real thing. And I know it sounds petty, but sometimes when you have coaches and you coach a kid that may have it's almost like a parent who grew up poor and you got a rich kid, that you a privileged kid. Every little thing you're looking at him like, I didn't have this when I grew up. I didn't get this opportunity. You should be taking all of this. And I just don't. I want Trey to be able to organically get out there and have a shot. And if you're going to be the quarterback's coach and talk about everybody in the room, just understand that everybody's watching. We're all paying attention to what you're saying. So, is Brian Griese a good quarterback's coach? We don't know. He's only been here a year. We don't know.
But he's an important part of the equation now, it seems to me.
I mean, yeah, he's touching the product. He's a quarterback's coach, so he's a very important part of what we do, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Aru Illustri says, Coach has slowly become my favorite guest. You guys work well together.
Thank you.
He's a hell of a guest. It's really his show. It's called Coach's Meeting.
No, it's not.
Flave says, yeah, that's why he got Lance, but quickly realized he was wrong. Got Purdy the next year and brought Jimmy back. Good call. Yeah, that's why they drafted Purdy with the last pick in the draft, because he was all out on Trey Lance.
Yeah.
That's why they made Trey Lance the starting quarterback, because Brock, dude.
Flave, my guy. I like Flave.
I love Flave. Well, Flave's real close. He's friends with Kyle, so Kyle told him. He knows.
Mm-hmm.
Vito says Trey Lance is the GOAT and next year's MVP. Brock blows. Shout out, Coach. You the man. Grant, you the GOAT. Brock doesn't blow, but thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Brock didn't do anything bad. All right, let's talk about the news from yesterday.
Okay.
So for the second year in a row, George Kittle invited Trey Lance to tight end university.
Right.
To throw during these drills and stuff. And last year, Trey Lance said no. He couldn't fit it in the schedule. Couldn't make it happen. This year, he's making it happen.
Right.
What do you make of that? Is this significant?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Football is a people business. I know that it's wins and losses, but at the end of the day, just like anything, you work with who you like. I'm that's just the truth.
That's like the entire Niners culture. That's what they've built.
Yeah. Right? And that's and essentially that's everywhere, really. You know what I'm saying?
You got to work with people you trust.
How qualified you are. If you're not liked in the organization, we can't, you don't help productivity. So one thing about the NFL is that these little events or camps are, they're networking opportunities. That's what they are. They're ways for Trey to rebrand himself in a narrative that really matters, right? There's a back channel line in the NFL about how people really feel about players around the league, and going to stuff like this and performing strengthens that narrative where people can talk offline about what they saw, about how they saw Trey in the raw, how they saw him lead, how they saw him get through his progressions, throw the ball. And also he's not going to be doing it with just NFL guys. He's going to be doing it with premier guys who have big networks, who people are going to be asking them. Important people are going to be asking them, how did Trey look?
Also, think about it. Like, they don't need Trey Lance to get out of the pocket and make plays. Like, they need Trey Lance to be a jugs machine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You need to hit him.
I don't have a problem with Trey throwing on the run. I think that's actually one of his strengths.
Me too. That's not going to be something he's going to be doing here, right?
Yeah. I think essentially Trey being a jugs machine is kind of one of the things that we were scared about, is him just making the routine easy layup throws. Like, man, just make that throw. So I feel like on the inverse, I feel so bad for the kid at times, because all of the special stuff that he does on routine, deep ball accuracy, throwing on the run, getting outside of the pocket. That's the stuff that when Trey wows you, he consistently wows you with that stuff, which lets you know that he has it in his bag. What scares you is the brass tacks little stuff.
My thing is, I guess the question is, does this mean that Kittle likes Trey now? Because my whole assumption is like, Kittle kind of hasn't accepted Trey into the big boy group. Like, he's the little brother, and like, it's like, you can't hang out with us. Like, you can't come to Cabo. You can't come to the Warrior game. Go to the A's game by yourself, and get a standing ovation by all 2,000 people there. I'm not going. What is it? Does this change their relationship? I look at this as like a challenge from George. Like, why don't you show up?
I don't look at this as a litmus from George, because I think that this is a little bit more connected. I don't think that George is just some like independent contractor. I think that Trey got that invite, and Kyle knows that Trey got that invite. Yeah. And Trey was probably voluntold to go to that.
Voluntold. And probably George was probably voluntold to invite him.
Yeah, he was voluntold to tell him, yes, you're voluntold to do this, right?
Hey, just George, Trey, you're inviting Trey to tight end.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Trey, you're going to tight end you. And it's going to look like you guys, it's about you two. You guys set it all up.
Yeah. In military school, we used to call it mandatory fun.
That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah. So
and to me also, it's like, again, it plays into George's persona. Like, I'm the leader of this team, man. You want to be the quarterback on this team? Come to my camp.
Yeah.
That's step one. You didn't come last year? Well, I didn't play week 1 and 2. No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying, hey, man, I set the agenda here, and you're coming to tight end university if you want to be a quarterback on this team. Because if you say no, I might just bring Sam. I might just bring Sam. You don't want me to bring Sam, do you?
I think that Trey just needs to go ahead and just create a Trojan horse. Do what you got to do. Smile, kiss baby, shake hand, kiss ass, and when you get in front of the masses, they're all controlled by the dollar. This is all about money. So as soon as we see that Trey is productive, then they got a shitstorm on their hands because they gotta play him because they're all scared. So Trey has to just make it into the Coliseum. Just make it into the arena where you can fight in front of the mob. And then we'll give you the thumbs up or the thumbs down.
Love that. Also, another thing that this is good for Trey, doesn't seem like any of his players have been clamoring to work out with him this offseason. Wherever he's been, I don't know. Maybe it's tough when you're like, I don't even know who the quarterback's going to be, man. Like Kyle's not telling me, and people are saying Darnold. People are saying, like, where do I go? So Trey now brings it upon himself. Like, all right, George, I'll go to you, and we can build some chemistry. I mean, it's better than nothing. I know he's going to be throwing to more tight ends than just George, but it's going to be a few days, extra days that they'll have together. I mean, they haven't played together that much. So that's a good thing.
True. That's so true. They haven't had a lot of playing time together.
No.
So I will say that
one game, maybe one game.
But hey, look at it this way though, Grant. If you look at it on the inverse, Trey was that guy the year before when he was the incumbent starter, when he was coming in as the guy. Brandon Ayuk and Trey were attached at the hip. They were attached at the hip that summer. So it's
Can I say something else though?
Sure.
We always see this like perceived lack of connect between Kittle and Trey. I always empathize with Trey, but let's see it from Kittle's perspective. All right, Trey is the newcomer here. Like George is the leader on the team. Okay. George invites. I'm gonna be George for a second. I invite you, Trey, to my camp last year. You say no. You say no. You're too busy. The hell you mean you're too busy? You talking about you're too busy? No, you find time to come to my freaking camp. If you want to, if you want my respect, you didn't come to my camp. What are you doing? And I'm seeing video, I'm seeing pictures, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. Like you couldn't have time talking about.
And then we're talking about
I like Jimmy. I've already said I like Jimmy. You trying to get me on your side? Come on, that's not how you do it.
Trey likes to have a good time, and it's
so do I.
Yeah, you're all over the place. And you're gonna turn down my camp. I can see how that could get you miffed on a veteran.
Piss me off. It would piss me off.
And from inside the building, they do cast a big shadow because they are good pros, and the rest of the league, they have the respect of the league. I just feel like the top of the league isn't as competitive as it used to be. Now, if you're good, you're just good. There's really not a lot of distinction between the Super Bowl winner and the next 4 to 5 teams that are good in the NFL.
That's true.
The NFL didn't used to be that way. Like the champ was the champ, and everybody else was general population. Now there's like this gentleman's club purgatory in the NFL, like there's smokers room where they get to all just sit up there and look down at the rest of the league because they're profitable and make money. So it's like, this is like the social media TikTok age of the NFL, where you have like your Instagram teams that you can just boast on, but they don't really win anything. They don't have any rings, but they're just good to talk about.
Yeah. They just have a few highlights. They have a few stars. You know what I mean? Yeah. The Vikings, they have Justin Jefferson. You know, he does the gritty. Everyone knows that. And they got a bunch of highlights. You think the Vikings are doing well. And it's like, what happened? Oh, they lost in the playoffs. Go get them next year. No one cares. Right? Hey, Yeah. Agree. Yeah, that's true. Flave says, heard Kyle told Kittle to take Trey to tight end you because Mike Shanahan's coming into town to teach Darnold the offense one-on-one and didn't want Trey to know. That's funny, Flav. Flav, you got connections?
Dubious.
Are you in the Shanahan family?
He's in the circle. Oh, yeah. He knows.
Do you want to talk about Kyle Shanahan, the offensive coordinator? Did I have a point that wasn't just negative? Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Kyle.
All right, let's do it.
Because, I mean, the theme of it's a positive show. What we're trying to say is, don't just assume this offense is going to start slow. They got Bobby Turner here. They got Christian McCaffrey here. They got Elijah Mitchell here. Like, they're kind of ready to go. They haven't changed much about their offense. And I think that's important because I don't know that Kyle's just this genius who can do it all on his own. That's his reputation. He's like the Michael Jordan of coaches. Like, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't need any teammates. He can do it all by himself. Like, I don't know. I'm looking at his coaching record, and he's been in the league he's been a coordinator since 2008.
Yes.
And he's had an offense that ranked top 10 in points, 4 times.
4 times.
And one was last year. So, I mean, he moves the ball, but essentially he's really hasn't had consistency as an offensive coach. So he needs all the help he can get from Bobby Turner, Steve Wilkes, that defense, that run game. He's not necessarily this, Bill Walsh.
No. I mean, and
Sorry, I have to break that to Niner fans.
No, I mean, no. Let's talk about it, but we can do it in a respectful way, right? We don't have to be, shock jocks,
snarky,
right. So here go the facts. Kyle Shanahan has been an OC for 4 teams. Out of those 4 teams, he's had a winning season with 3 of them. All right.
Yeah.
He had 2 500 seasons and a winning season with the Texans. He had 3 losing seasons and a winning season with the Skins. He had a losing season with the Browns that he didn't finish. And he had a 500 season and a winning season with the Falcons. All right. Mm-hmm. That was the Falcons year was the Super Bowl year. Right. So if you want to look at it from the 2012 season that they went 10-6, this is just numbers. Okay. From the 2012 season that they went 10-6 all the way up until the 2016 year of the Super Bowl, those were the only 2 winning seasons as an offensive coordinator that Kyle Shanahan had. Mm-hmm. So in between that time, there was this narrative of Kyle being an offensive genius that just came out of nowhere, right? So what we're seeing now is this is Kyle's 7th year, and through that time, he's still trying to find his trigger man. So he's done a great job at putting together the defense and the team. But
can I stop you real quick? Because you made a point that I want to comment on. The Kyle became a genius overnight thing. Yeah, it happened in 2016. In 2015, no one thought Kyle Shanahan was a genius at all. And what happened in 2016 was he had one of the best offenses of all time, like in terms of yards. And
it was points. 1 year.
It was 1 year, and people were like, "Wow, if he could be that good, man!" Like all of a sudden, they rewrote history on his entire career. Like, oh, okay, well, he had an excuse. He didn't have the quarter. He didn't have this. He didn't have that. But essentially, his reputation as like a top level genius is still based on 1 year out of like 15. Literally 15.
They were. I mean, and if you think about it, this story was kind of in the queue. They were waiting to say this, right?
Yeah.
So as soon it was almost kind of like, I feel like in certain ways they were waiting for Kyle to give them the excuse to bring this out, right? Mm-hmm. But if you go by the numbers, if you're looking at consistency of what it takes to actually be respected in your field, that ain't it. Okay.
No.
You went to the top of the mountain, and then we're not even going to talk about what happened in that game. Right. So you had that season and that game. But before that, the last season that you had any notoriety was the 2012 season where RG3 was a rookie. And even in that year, the then Washington Redskins were 3-6. They had to win 7 games in a row and completely change that all.
Man, I lost the coach.
No, I'm here.
Yo, I just had an epiphany. Man. You mentioned what Kyle Shanahan did in the biggest game of his life, losing. You know, it's interesting. People don't talk about it, but what did he do the week before he coached that game? See, I don't think you're gonna think of it, but it's right there. What did he do the week before? He interviewed with the 49ers. He had the epiphany too, and he left. Kyle Shanahan was interviewing. Okay, so Kyle Shanahan was interviewing for head coaching jobs. Go ahead. Kyle Shanahan was interviewing for head coaching jobs before that game.
Yeah.
And guess who else was interviewing for head coaching jobs this year before the Super Bowl? Jonathan Gannon. What happened to Jonathan Gannon in the Super Bowl? He freaking embarrassed himself and was completely unprepared and couldn't make an adjustment. I'm telling you, they got to change that. That's like a little bit of a tangent, but they got to change that, man. Those pre-playoff game interviews kill teams.
Yeah, they do. I mean, when you got to prepare that much, they're physically.
Did it help D'Amico when he got? Did it help D'Amico when the Philly put up 31 on him?
No,
I'm just saying.
They say coaches say that it's not, because they have to say that it's not going to take anything away, but it definitely takes a lot away from you.
What else are you supposed to say?
Yeah. You've got to lie.
It's the system. You got to do it. You only get one opportunity, but it totally screws the team. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the NFL has to change that system. I think it's probably a big reason he missed.
So, but I will I will say, just to circle back onto the Kyle's OC record.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for as much as Kyle puts his hands on this offense, I feel like this is just another conclusion into I cannot stress how much we need a designated coordinator. Like we really do. Because it just goes to show, like, even the coaching career that Kyle had as an OC, it's peppered. There's no consistency there. It's checkered.
Right.
And for us to think that he's going to be able to still be the OC that we all believe he is and be our head coach, that's tough sledding. And that's the only reason why I looked at that record. But
like, he wasn't even like an elite offensive coordinator, but that was his only job. Yeah.
Like, if you there's a guy, Eric Bieniemy. If you just go by his record, like, he should have been a head coach long ago. If you just look at winning seasons as an OC, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, even with Houston, not Houston, but even with Cleveland, most coaches, they will be a marked man if they exited a job that way. So it is what it is, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Flave says, "Oh no, we got you, Flave." Vito, Lance is the GOAT and next year's MVP. Brock below. Oh, got you. Aloha Chief says, if Brock isn't injured, does Kittle invite him instead of Lance? Possible, but Brock is injured. That's the whole. Brock is injured. That's the whole thing, and we don't really know how bad it is. Flave says, heard Kyle told Kittle to trade a tight end you because Mike Shanahan. Oh, got that one too. Adam Paul says, I have a feeling Flav and George Kittle would be best buddies. I don't think George Kittle would want to hang out with Flav. No offense to Flav, but I don't think so. Funny Money says 2 words on hood. That's so true. Well put. I don't have anything else to talk about. It was a quick one today. I just have nothing going on. But next week we'll have OTAs to talk about.
OTAs. That's going to be exciting.
To talk about. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll get to see. It won't just. So far, I've only seen the rookies, which is cool. And the second year guys, some second year guys.
Trey, who are you excited to see? Let's do this. Who are you excited to see at OTAs? Who are you ready to see?
Debo. Moment of truth for Debo. Moment of truth for Debo. What do you look like, man?
Yeah,
apparently he's been working out hard. I want to see that.
I heard about that. I want to see Drake Jackson.
Oh, that's yup.
I want to see what Drake looks like coming back. Yeah. I want to see what Ambry looks like. We've been getting on him all season. He's had all.
And remember, there was that report last year, not report, but he did charity. He went to Africa. He went to Somalia. He did great things. Mm-hmm. Were you lifting? Were you lifting as much as Lenore? Because he lifted his butt off. So that's the question.
Yeah,
those are 3 guys right there.
Gray.
Ooh, Ty Davis Price.
Yeah,
Ty Davis Price.
TDP. Yeah. I got a horse in that race already. You know who my guy is.
TDP feels like a symptom of Bobby Turner being gone for 9 months.
Yeah. Bobby Turner was gone for 9 months, and the kids picked up TDP. And Bobby Turner came back and said, what did you do while I was gone? Go get Christian McCaffrey. They said, all right, Dad, we'll get Christian. Are you okay now? He said, yeah.
Fine. Yeah. I see. That's another reason I don't think Ty Davis Price is going to make this team. Like, he was not Bobby Turner certified at all. And he's back. Turner's back.
And you ain't never felt bad until you get cursed out by an old person, because they don't curse. They just make you feel bad. Son,
that's true. Like,
don't got it.
Oh. I don't know that Jordan Mason was Bobby Turner certified, but he's good. He's proven himself. Ty Davis Price really struggled, and now you got Kalen Laburn, who's Bobby Turner certified. So
that's a Bobby Turner pick.
Yeah, so you're in trouble. You're in trouble, Ty. They might have to trade him. That's it.
Man.
That's all. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Sorry. Playing for the 49ers isn't cut out for everyone. But even if you're not ready for this challenge, there might be a spot elsewhere for you.
It's the league, and then there's the standard of what that organization brings to you. So every team isn't cut out the same.
Yeah, there's always the Las Vegas Raiders. Ask Jimmy.
Sure. The Cardinals look good this time of year.
The Cardinals always start off good until Call of Duty comes out, and then no, I can't put it on Call of Duty. We can't put it on Call of Duty. Like, Cliff Kingsbury is a legitimately horrible coach. He needs to own that. That was on you. He lost in college with Patrick Mahomes. That's an accomplishment. That's really the most impressive thing he's ever done.
I knew that Cliff Kingsbury was not the guy when I saw his house on HBO.
Yeah.
Too much. And when his house, I was like, what? This is not a football coach's home.
I want to say one more thing, and then I'm going to go. A lot of people like having alliterative names. Like my cousin has a last name that starts with D, and he named two of his kids names that start with D, and it's cool to have, I think that's cool. If your last name starts with K, you might want to chill on that. Cliff Kingsbury, Clint Kubiak, Clay Kubiak is like, yo, but every time I meet someone, I'm like, what's your middle name? What's your middle name?
What's your middle name?
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know you didn't name yourself, but what's your middle name?
I bet you don't have anything monogrammed.
Definitely not. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back when you least expect. And I'll be back soon. Take care.